What's up, everyone? Vincent Genito here, playing a little more Street Fighter V with my good man,
Kyle O'Connor. What's up, guys?
What's up, buddy?
Happy to be here, watching you play some...
Ken's fingers are going into each other. He has a serious problem
this
here.
Is meta. This is... He's holding his own hands. Oh, my God.
So yeah, I'm playing as Ken right now. It's a character that people should be familiar with. Yeah, absolutely.
What about for people who are unfamiliar with the game? I'm more of a Mortal Kombat guy. We've gone at length about the differences in the game. For someone who's fairly new to Street Fighter franchise, what can I like? What would I like about the game?
Well, I think what you're gonna like about it, is as a new player to the series, what you're gonna see is that a lot of, it's not to say that the game isn't technical, because it is technical, but what's different is that all the kind of more nuanced, super technical fine points of Street Fighter 4, they try to clean a lot of that up and make it more about strong fundamentals. And fundamentals are, I think, something that even though a lot of new players don't get the chance to learn them and don't necessarily do that, I think it's a lot easier to grasp, say, like footsies, and like, hey, this move is good at this range, or, at this range, maybe it's a safe range to throw a fireball, whereas at this range, maybe it's not as safe anymore for me to throw a fireball. So I think the game focuses more on basic concepts and mastering those basic concepts than it does on super technical elements, the way that Street Fighter 4 kind of
So
did.
you're preaching to the choir. That's exactly my playstyle. The stuff I like is the tight fundamentals, like the core concepts you have to understand about the individual fighting games.
Right.
And obviously I'm going to refer to Mortal Kombat, but that seems to be more my playstyle. Like, I have fairly good combos, but I prefer to rely on the core, like, solid fundamentals and, core mechanics of the game that I try to learn inside and out.
Yeah, and that's where I think this game is going to have a lot to offer new players. Like, I think what's nice for new players is they've done this before a little bit with Street Fighter, where there's kind of like a couple of really big universal mechanics that kind of tie everyone together. So like in Street Fighter 3, there was parrying, and in Street Fighter 4, there was focus attack, and they kind of have that here in this game, but in what they've done more of is, instead of make it one universal mechanic that works for everybody, it's kind of like everyone's specialty, what makes everyone special, is just baked into the V skill and the V trigger system, which is just as simple as hitting two mediums together or hitting two heavies together. So right off the bat, it's not as vague of a mechanic as, say, focus attack was. So, like, for instance, with Ken, it's this dash up and the step kick. If I just tap two mediums, he dashes up. If I hold the two mediums, he does that step kick. So people know the step kick from, if you're returning, you know that the step kick gives him some range and the ability to close distance. But its function here is a lot less esoteric. Like
sorry, this hypes me up. Like, I'm like, let's
I know,
do
it's
it!
like, oh my god!
I know.
Like in Street Fighter 4, if you wanted to make good use of the step kick, you had to know when to do the right one, the regular one, and when to do the fake one, how to cancel out of it to extend your throw range, and a lot of kind of more finer technical points to really make Ken the aggressive character that he's supposed to be.
Which I love.
Yeah, and you like getting aggressive, but you might not necessarily be inclined to pick up all those like super technical or high execution elements. So, the fact that you can access what makes Ken with, two mediums together or with two heavies together, I think that's going to be a big draw for a lot of people, because they'll be making decisions instead of fighting with controls and fighting with mechanics. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're winning or losing basing off of your decision making, not off of
right, exactly.
messing some crazy combo up. I've always been a subscriber to the thought that over complexity does not necessarily equal good game.
Right, it doesn't mean depth.
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily mean depth.
Yeah,
like, just because your game is complicated doesn't mean that there's depth to it. And there was depth to Street Fighter 4,
but
it's like sometimes there's something to be said for exposing that depth to people by making it a little bit more surface.
Yeah. I don't know. I could go on at length about it, but hey, there are a lot of very complex games that are very good, but there are also a lot of complex games that are just not fun. And if you're not having fun playing a video game, what are you doing?
Right, exactly. And that's I've always described to people, like, playing Street Fighter 4, or any Street Fighter really, for most people, and this isn't a matter of their intelligence, this isn't their fault. For most people, it's kind of like the equivalent of playing Super Mario Brothers without knowing there's a run button.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're playing the game with half of the possibilities just not there.
Yeah. Because
you don't know that they are there. And so that always means that people play, a lot of like newer players will play fighting games and they'll play it for a couple months. They'll hit buttons with their friends, and they'll have some fun, but they ultimately won't, like, they don't have the information to go farther and enjoy it more for all the beauty that it really has inside of it, because, you know, it's just not made clear. So I like the fact that, you know, I don't think that the skill ceiling is necessarily going anywhere in Street Fighter V, but I like that the first step is a little bit lower and more manageable.
Exactly.
So people can get to the point where they're making decisions and guessing and playing against the person across from them, you know, almost immediately, rather than just contending with controls and mechanics.
Exactly. Yeah. Their decision making is, like I mentioned earlier, their decision making is winning or losing the game.
Yeah, and to me, that's always been like to some people. I mean, look, I like execution, I do, and I like
you have long combos, I know.
Right, and I love.
Oh,
and
God,
I
know.
And I do. And I do love watching, you know, two execution masters go at it and do things that I'm like, whoa, I could never do that, and I couldn't do that in such a high pressure situation. That is cool and impressive.
Really impressive.
I think there will be stuff like that eventually in Street Fighter V.
But watching someone who just wants to brawl and he's just real solid up close, you know.
Yeah, that can be a lot of fun. And the other thing about it is that, like, at a certain point, you're cutting off people who have a good fighting game mind, have good fundamentals, or have just good decision making, or good Yomi. You know, they can read their opponent well and they can react well, and those are important skills too. And when you, to some degree, I think the complexity of fighting games today has de-emphasized those fundamentals and those skills because, you know, they don't count for as much when there's all this other technical stuff.
Why did your projectile win that?
Well, his projectile won it.
Oh, you're blue.
Yes, I'm blue. His projectile won it. Oh, I mistimed that punish. His projectile won because he did the EX version.
Oh, okay.
And that has 2 hits, and mine only has 1.
It's real confusing because his character card is red.
Yeah, it is confusing. Well, that's a pretty definitive loss on my part. But in any case, that's why I think that you are going to dig this Street Fighter.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to teaching you some of it, dude.
You mean beating me?
I'm going to beat some lessons into you. Well, guys, thanks for joining us, watching us play Street Fighter V. And for more on Street Fighter V, keep it right here on IGN.